Welcome to the Words of Hope podcast, weekday devotions from the diverse voices of Cathedral of Hope, United Church of Christ.
The devotion for today, Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, was written by Weber Baker and is narrated by Adam Carter. Today's words of inspiration come from J.R.R. Tolkien in the Tolkien Letters. The proper study of man is anything but man, and the most improper job of any man, even saints, who at any rate were at least unwilling to take it on, is bossing other men. Not one in a million is fit for it, and least of all those who seek the opportunity. Hear today's words of hope. Today is Tolkien Reading Day. Most of us were familiar with his works are probably thinking of The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien was a prolific writer and not only wrote fiction and a contributor to the Oxford English Dictionary, but was a great communicator through letters. He was also a devout Roman Catholic. The above quote from one of his letters caused me to reflect on the life of Jesus and those we think of as saints. To me, the quote above is almost the backwards way of describing the servant leader we think of when we think of Jesus. Of course, Jesus didn't really need to study humankind. He was well aware from the beginning of the nature of humanity. He does not want to boss his followers around, though he did ask them to do things, and he didn't particularly seem to seek the opportunity, but by his very nature attracted people to himself. But I am also reminded of a story from the life of St. Francis. It was a time when Francis actually bossed someone around. One of Francis's followers, Brother Rufino, was ordered to go preach. Although Rufino came from one of the most prominent families in Assisi, he asked to be excused as he did not see himself as one to stand in front of a crowd. Francis became upset and told Rufino that not only would he preach, but he would preach naked as he had come into the world. Rufino obeyed and went into the pulpit in the Assisi without clothes. The congregation began to laugh at him. In the meantime, Francis began to reconsider what he had done. Reflecting on Rufino's quick obedience the second time, and on the fact that he had asked the son of one of the most prominent families in town to stand naked before everyone, Francis stripped naked, went to the pulpit where Rufino was, and began to preach so marvelously, even though he was without clothes, that people in the congregation began to weep. In rereading the story of St. Francis in light of Tolkien's statement, I almost wondered if that story was something that influenced Tolkien. Tolkien is not deriding leadership. He is a demeaning being, a boss, a power-seeking control freak. I'm certain most of us can think back to people who we called our bosses. Some of them were bosses, some of them were servant leaders. At least I hope you can say that. Fortunately, I can. So in your reflection time today, think back to those who were in charge over you. Think about the lessons you can learn both from the bosses and from the servant leaders. Reflect back on the life of Jesus and this story of St. Francis, and keep them in mind whenever you find yourself thrust into a position of leadership. Let us pray. Gracious God, you have given us examples through Jesus and those holy people you have sent to be examples to us in our lives. Help us to always live up to these. May we always strive to be servants, and when we are called upon to be servant leaders.
The Words of Hope podcast and the Cathedral of Hope daily devotions are a ministry of Cathedral of Hope United Church of Christ. To support this ministry, please subscribe to and share this podcast, follow us on social media, and donate through our website at cathedralofhope.com/give.